Thank you very much at magandang araw mga kaibigan. Nagbabalik po ang inyong programa Aksyon Central Luzon Special Edition. Ito po si Sunny Lopez and we are on our 9th year this year, and this is a very important topic that we are discussing this segment, because for the first time in the history of the Freeport, we're going to have an aviation. All the guys in the aviation industry will be trooping here to Clark to talk about Clark's future, ladies and gentlemen. So this time I have the President and Chief Executive Officer of the Peregrine Development International Incorporated, Mr. Dennis Wright, as one of the special guests. Dennis, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And this is the guy who, really from the private sector is pushing so hard for the development of the Clark Freeport, ladies and gentlemen. And that I know of. Started Clark is it. And of course, we have the Vice President for Commercial and Business Development Group of the Clark International Airport Corporation, Mr. Darwin Cunanan. Darwin, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Okay, tell us, Dennis, what are we going to have this February 21 and 22?
Well, the first aviation conference to focus on really Clark and aviation and what the promotion of aviation can do, not only for the Freeport but really for the Philippines, because an airport stimulates jobs, it stimulates economic growth, and it just stimulates expansion like never before. So we felt it was very important that there'd be a conference to start bringing together people from all segments of the aviation community.
Both here and abroad also, right?
We're
going to have some observers?
Here and abroad. In fact, we have some very good speakers lined up, international speakers, one of which is Greg Lindsay, who is the co-author of this book, Aerotropolis and the Way We Live Next. And I'll leave this with you when we leave. But this whole book is focused about how airports change the way we live and how people will live in the future and their dependency on air travel. Everything that Greg talks about in here is part and parcel of the backbone of the conference. But with that, Greg has agreed to fly over here and speak. He's going to be one of the featured keynote speakers at the conference.
That will be good. So Darwin, we all know for a fact that now and in the very near future, the mode of travel is really air travel, right?
Yes. This is actually very timely, because 2012 was really a banning year for Clark International Airport. First is we posted a 72% increase in passenger volume compared to 2011, and this is the first time in a year that we were able to reach 1 million passengers.
Or over.
Yes, over a million passengers. In a period of 10 months, last October 24th, we awarded our 1 million, we welcomed our 1 millionth passenger in Clark. And in November 21, the same year, we also welcomed our 5 millionth passenger, which was counted from the day we started, which was way back 2003 with the entry of Asiana. Now, Clark is really growing very fast. The people are now going to Clark to avail of the services we have in terms of airport operations. We now have 37 international flights per day, and we have 8 domestic flights per day. Before, they keep on saying that it's only the birds and the bees flying in the airport. Now it's a very, very busy airport, and people are really going to Clark.
How do we rank nationally?
Nationally, I think we're third in terms of international passengers. Second would be Mactan, Cebu. They have 1.4 million passengers last year. And hopefully within this year, we will be able to overtake Cebu in terms of international traffic. Domestic, it will be hard because Cebu is a domestic hub. It's the hub.
Tourism hub.
Yes, it's a tourism hub, and we're not yet there. But definitely we will be going there as far as Clark is concerned. But hopefully within the year, we will be able to overtake Cebu in terms of international passengers.
Okay, Dennis, you like the figures, right? But I know from the private sector, you don't want to rest on these figures. You want more to happen in Clark.
Well, not just me wanting more for any selfish parochial reason, but when Dr. John Casarda, Greg Lindsay, the two co-authors of this book, who are really world experts on airports and what an airport can do. And I think if the government really understood this, they would drop everything they are doing and develop Clark, because Clark has the ability to influence the Philippine economy like nothing else. Magnitude times stronger and better than the BPO industry or the call center industry or tourism. What Greg and John Casarda talk about is the retail space in shopping in the airports today generate 3 to 5 times the sales revenue per square foot of Mall of Asia or Mega Mall. A sophisticated shopping mall in the airports, like you see in Dubai, at O'Hare, at Midway, at the big Charles de Gaulle, the big airports. That shopping drives. Well, that generates a lot of jobs for suppliers and vendors that have to bring the materials into the stores, sales clerk that have to do that. Also, will tell you that the value of retail space or commercial space or land is 7 times higher than it is, say, in downtown Manila, in the areas around a metropolis. Now, this is not just hearsay, these are documented. There is more Class A office space being the top of the line office space that you would find, say, in Fort Bonifacio or Makati. Okay, there is more Class A office space in and around Dulles International Airport than there is in downtown Washington, D.C.
Because they're airport driven.
Because the airport drives it. It's airport driven. Today, everything is about time, just-in-time inventories, just-in-time business. And executives want to be located near an airport, quick in and quick out. But suppliers, vendors, they don't want to carry it. They want parts to be able to move in and move out in a global world. In order to do that, you have to have the airport. So the airport would have a multiplier effect on the Philippine economy. And I think
you're talking about the Philippine economy, not just about the local economy that in the area.
I'm talking about the Philippine
economy.
The
whole country, right?
The whole country. It will have a disproportionate impact. Certainly it's going to affect this region in big time. But it will drive the entire, I believe, last 2011, there were $4 billion exported from Clark alone. Now, I don't know what the number is this year. I haven't seen what 2012 was for the past year. But between Subic and Clark, I believe in 2011, it was almost 9% of the total country's exports came from Subic and Clark. Nobody's talking about that. They all want to talk about the Calabarzon in southern Manila. But wait a minute, it's exploding up here, but for some reason the national government doesn't want to recognize that. And this is all driven by the private sector.
Right. And like what you're doing now, right?
Like what we're doing.
With the aviation conference that we're having, you're working closely with the government, but it's in a way privately driven.
Privately driven with one of the speakers, and maybe hasn't committed yet, so maybe if people hear this, it'll help stimulate his commitment, is getting Tony Fernandez also as one of the key. He's been invited, all right, just hasn't affirmed. But we're talking about bringing in really leaders in the aviation industry as guest speakers to stimulate this first conference, because we think every year it will only grow and become better. And that will serve a lot to help increase the awareness of the impact of Clark has on not just this region, but the country.
Darwin, if this will happen, this aviation conference will happen, do you think we'll see flights from the U.S.? Right now you have to go to Korea to go to the United States, right? But will there be more dedicated flights
Definitely
from the U.S. to the Philippines?
Yes, we're pushing for that one. Unfortunately, with the current status of the Philippines right now, we are under Category 2, so no Philippine carrier can add additional flights to the U.S. Although U.S. carriers can fly directly to us without restrictions to Clark. And in fact, even now, AirAsia Philippines would really want to fly to Guam, which is a U.S. territory. They want to fly to Guam, but unfortunately with the Category 2 rating, they could not do so. So once that is lifted, they will go there. This conference might be able to invite American carriers, U.S. carriers, to take a look at Clark and maybe provide additional flights direct to the U.S. from Clark. As we've mentioned before, we're not what SIAC is doing right now is we're pushing towards what we call a twin gateway operation, dual airport scenario. Why? Because Region 1, Region 2, Region 3, where Clark is located, the Cordillera Autonomous Region, we already, and in the northern part of Manila, which is Quezon City and Camanaba, Caloocan, Malabon, Navotas, Valenzuela,
yes,
you have a cumulative population of around 23 million people.
And most of the OFWs
yes, around
are
47,
coming from this area,
yeah,
right?
47%, as per NSO statistics. 47% of our OFWs live within that catchment area. And it would be more convenient and beneficial for those people to utilize Clark as their airport rather than go through Manila, because they'll be able to save, let's say, 2 hours, 3 hours of land travel time going from Manila to Clark or vice versa. So what we're saying is, don't close NAIA, because why?
Yes.
Region 4 and the
We've
southern...
never batted for that, right?
Yes,
we batted for complementation.
Exactly,
right?
exactly. Because from southern Manila up to Calabarzon and then southern portion of Luzon, you still have a cumulative population of around 27 million. So the island of Luzon itself services around 50 million people, and 2 airports would work.
Yes.
A lot of critics are saying airlines doesn't want to do dual operations. Why? We could only accommodate so much airlines in one airport, like what we have in Manila right now. Manila is congested.
And we have to close the airport to clean up, right?
Exactly.
Every day.
Yes. And once they have equipment breakdown,
yes,
you could see a lot of aircrafts
them
right
coming
now.
Here.
Yes, they are now diverted to Clark. So if you see a lot of aircrafts flying in and out of Clark, because we have a bad weather in Manila,
they have trouble in NAIA.
So it's a good thing that Clark is now able to service all.
We're
of
ready
those
for them,
flights,
right?
Yes, and people are seeing,
but
Clark
that's
is an
not all we're
alternative.
ready for, right? We're not just for emergency. We're in for doing better business, more business, right?
We are open 24/7, and for a lot of our travelers are quite surprised that we already have 9 international destinations. You could go to Malaysia, you could go to Singapore, to Hong Kong, you could go to Macau, to Bangkok, and you could even go to the US. You could even go to
via Korea, right?
Via Korea, and now via Cathay Pacific.
Right.
If you take Dragon Air and Cathay are just one.
Sisters.
They set up Dragon Air so that Cathay could fly domestic to China. So if you take the flight from Clark to Hong Kong via Cathay, then you could connect to the network of the whole Cathay Pacific fleet. You could go to the US, to Europe, to Australia, anywhere in the world. So it's a very timely schedule. We now have OFWs from the US, from London, from Canada.
But we just don't want to service OFWs, right?
Yes.
We want really foreigners coming over.
That is true. Now, what happens to our flights from Malaysia? Before, majority of our passengers are Filipinos. Now you take a look at the Malaysia flights from Kuala Lumpur and from Kota Kinabalu. You see a lot of Malaysian tourists coming to Clark right now. So.
Okay, Dennis, tell me, is that new, operating 2 airports in one area, one region?
No, in fact, it's just the opposite.
That's not unique, right?
It is not unique. In fact, it's the standard. And for the Philippines to even, I think, consider closing NAIA would be a huge mistake. Huge mistake. The world experts, if you get the consensus, you always find different dissenting opinions, but if you take the consensus of the world's experts, Philippines needs NAIA.
Right.
Forever and in perpetuity. And the good analogy would be is if those of us who are old enough remember that the original airport in Tokyo was Haneda.
Yes.
And they built Narita way up to the north in farmlands, amid violence, in fact, trying to reclaim it from the
when
farmers.
it was done, right?
Right. So, and in Washington, D.C., you had today Ronald Reagan, but it used to be Washington National, downtown, one runway, very congested, and they built Washington Dulles in the early 80s, and it sat dormant. It was actually it was built in the 60s, but it sat dormant from 60s to 80s, much like Clark, utilized. Now it exploded, but National still serves the capital. Haneda still serves the capital in Tokyo. And the same thing with Paris. They can go around the world. We can take the old Orly airport in Paris, France.
Right.
But you have Charles de Gaulle. more recently, we can go just to one of the neighbors, ASEAN neighbors in Thailand. They had the old downtown Bangkok airport, and now they have Suvarnabhumi.
In Hong Kong, right?
Hong Kong's a little different because they have one. They're mega, but they're a city-state. It's a lot different scenario there, and in Singapore, where they don't even have land, hardly have one airport. So, but if you go out, you have the same thing with the original airport in Chicago was Midway, not O'Hare. In New York was LaGuardia, not JFK. So it would be a huge mistake to think you could close NAIA. NAIA must be there to serve the capital. But you do need a satellite, and distance is not measured in miles anymore or kilometers. It's measured in time. And I think it does a disservice to people like myself, a businessman. I fly out of Asiana Airlines out of Clark to the States, 22 hours. That's faster than I can get to the States from Delta in Manila. And that's with excellent connections, business class, through Incheon to LA, Chicago, New York. And I typically will fly into New York. 22 hours after leaving Clark, I'm in New York. That's incredible service. Unfortunately, it's only one scheduled airline, and we need to have more. So it'd be a big mistake. You need the two airports. Every major city in the world has two. And if you take the UAE, you had the old Dubai airport. They built the new one in Abu Dhabi, and now they're building the jumbo mega airport in Jebel Ali, halfway in between. So you cannot build enough airports.
Right, especially nowadays, right?
Especially nowadays, and especially since, by and large, domestic air transport in the Philippines is very much in its infancy. The majority of Filipinos really are not yet flying, but with the low-cost fares,
they're starting to.
So where do those planes go?
Right.
I'd lead another challenge. When the Department of Tourism says it's more fun in the Philippines, we're going to increase tourism from 3.5 million to 10 million. How? All right? It's easy to make that statement. But where are you going to put 6 million passengers? You cannot put them in Manila. And you need a lot of different destinations for those passengers to go to. So it would be a big mistake to do anything but to promote both. And even maybe a third airport. It shouldn't. Airports generate growth. Just look around the world and look at your neighbors.
So the reports about another airport in Bulacan being constructed doesn't bother you?
It doesn't bother me, except I think it would be foolish. The Philippines, to build a new airport, an airport today needs around 2,500 hectares to 4,000 hectares to be an international airport. To build that airport today is going to take around $8 billion US dollars. $8 billion US dollars. Now, the Philippines has trouble feeding its population with rice, with health care, with education. You go to the movie theater, want to build 10,000 new classrooms, donate 10 pesos. There is such a demand for social services in this country. It would be much better to take $8 billion and put it into social services, badly needed social services, and use the existing Clark airport. It's already bought and paid for at Clark. That is superb.
And in operation.
And it's only from Bulacan to here is only like another half-hour drive. So, to me, it doesn't make sense from a business perspective. It doesn't make sense from a political perspective. Again, all we can do is bring in the experts to try to help increase the awareness and understanding through things like this conference. This conference, I think, will help bring in visionaries like Tony Fernandez, Greg Lindsay. We're working on getting big airport operators to come in and speak and let the Philippines really benchmark what's working in the other international communities.
So definitely this will cause some steering. Or awakening of the importance of
awakening. I think it's more an issue of getting people to understand. Then should be no fear. NAIA will always
be there,
pull in 29 million, 30 million passengers, always, or even slightly higher. But it is limited physically, all right? But why wouldn't you want another 25 million passengers coming in at Clark? And maybe another one in the south. Further south, though, than NAIA, even
Yes.
maybe further south than Laguna,
Batangas area?
Batangas area. Because the airports will generate that growth and that economy, and it also helps serve to decongest Metro Manila, because people now have another destination.
That's one big problem that we're facing right now, the congestion of Metro Manila. And we offer, Clark right now offers the best alternative, right, or support for in the solution of the problem in Metro Manila. How are we readying ourselves for this?
This conference would definitely educate our people. It's more of an information drive, if you will. Last year, we also did a marketing sortie in Hong Kong to cater to our fellow kababayans, the Filipinos working in Hong Kong, and they're very quite surprised to find out that we have flights available in Clark. They would say, if I come through Clark, then I will be nearer because I live in Cabanatuan, I live in Tarlac, I live in Pangasinan and everything. They say, we never knew about this one.
No hassle in going to Manila, right?
Exactly.
Because Manila, if you're from North Philippines, I mean north of Manila around, it's a hassle to
and on the other hand, people are saying also, it will not work if you don't have the connectivity between Clark and Manila. That's why they're saying you have to have the rail first. And we say, okay, the rail takes time. So what are we doing? Clark International Airport Corporation, just yesterday, we partnered with the private sector, with the Trinoma Group, the Ayala Group, and they gave us a very beautiful lounge in the Trinoma Mall, wherein we will be having scheduled buses coming from Trinoma to Clark.
Probably we need more, more of those.
Yes. So that what happens is this is on a scheduled basis, on a regular basis. Initially, they will be synchronized with our flights here in Clark, but it would come up to a point wherein they will be going in and out, let's say every hour, then maybe every 30 minutes. Similar to the bus system that you see in Kuala Lumpur. When you go to KL is the Sepang Airport is quite far from downtown KL, but they have a very efficient bus service. That is why a lot of passengers doesn't mind going through this bus companies going to the downtown city. Mr. Luciano is even envisioning later on it would elevate to what we call as airport coaches, like for VIPs, for people who could afford to pay. They want more convenience and comfort in the way they travel. So this is a start.
Well, because those who are traveling now mostly are businessmen also. They're not just tourists. They're not just OFWs. And most of the businessmen, that's their mode.
Exactly. Before we thought we have 8 low-cost airlines flying in and out of Clark. Before we thought who would travel here? Maybe mostly OFWs, those backpackers and everything. You will be quite surprised to find out that even executives are traveling now via budget airlines, because for them it's just a short distance, 1.5 hours,
and they're
4
businessmen.
hours.
They want to save.
Exactly. Time is more important to them.
Yes, time.
If you could travel business class to Manila, but you will be wasting, let's say, 2 to 3 hours traveling from Clark to Manila, or plus 2 to 3 hours if you're coming from Baguio, from Lawag, from everywhere else. So they find the convenience and the time factor for them. Being able to save, if you're an executive, time is very precious for you. So being able to save 2 hours, that means a lot already. You could have accomplished a lot of things. So we're doing this slowly. We're now saying to people, now we have the connectivity. Later on, we go towards the rail. Definitely, that is needed. We're not saying we don't need the rail. We need that on a later date. Even in Haneda and Narita, the train came in after. It didn't come immediately.
Even Dulles National.
Exactly. Yes. So it will come later on. What we're saying is from Trinoma
because
to
there's
Clark.
the demand for it, right?
Yes. From Trinoma to Clark, you could be in Clark in an hour's time, because it's calculated. You could take either Mindanao Avenue or that short span of EDSA from Balintawak, and then in an hour or so you're definitely in Clark. But if you put that station somewhere in Mall of Asia or Mega Mall, it depends on the traffic condition of Manila. How soon can you get out of Manila? But Trinoma is quite strategic because in a way your time is calculated. You would know that in an hour's time you're inside Clark.
I was invited to go to the Trinoma ceremony yesterday. I left the office at 12:30, exactly 12:30. The ceremony started at 2. I was there with 15 minutes to spare. I attended the ceremony, went back in and did a little bit of shopping inside of the mall, went up to Taco Bell, I love, and filled
a lot of
myself
commercials,
filled myself up with Taco Bell, right? And back here in the office, by 5:15.
Yeah.
Yes.
From 12:30, I went to Manila, did my business in Manila, back here. This issue of distance is really a misnomer. I believe it stems because the decision makers, both political and business decision makers, seem to be in Makati or Malacanang, very centrally centric.
Imperial Manila.
And they forget about all the people who live in the northern provinces, or that 23 million people in the catchment basin, which incidentally, the rail will not help. The rail won't help anybody to the north of us, and the rail won't help anybody in Region 3, and the rail won't help you if you lived in Caloocan. Who does the rail tend to help? Imperial Manila. And so if you get through this thinking, you can realize then that the rail is very important. Do it. Definitely.
Yes.
But it is not essential. There is no rail.
But even if we do a rail here, we cannot do all the stops, right?
No, you're not going to have a stop everywhere. But that's my point. So there is no rail between O'Hare and Midway, JFK, LaGuardia, Washington, Dulles, and National, Haneda, well, today, Haneda and Narita, but not originally. And most of the airport twins, there's no rail, even in London. Try to get between Heathrow and Gatwick. And so it's very important to follow. But if you have the flights, people will go. The other thing is, most of the Imperial Manila do not drive themselves. They have a driver. So they'll do work in the car while their driver takes them to and from.
They do that now, right?
But they do that now. But the average Filipino, say, living in Quezon City, it's much easier for him to drive up to Clark or get to Clark, especially with a Trinoma bus, than going down to Naiya.
And sooner there will be more buses servicing our area, right?
Yes. Now we started with 3 bus companies, with Philtranco, with Genesis, and with Victory. But Victory brings in 3 bus companies also, 5-Star, Cisco, and Victory itself. But only 2 buses right now are able to enter Clark, which is Genesis and Philtranco. Definitely later on, once the demand is there, it would mature to more regular flights. Let's say more frequent bus travels between Manila and Clark. What we're doing now is we're trying to provide the connectivity. We're trying to solve the connectivity issue that Clark is not located to Manila; it's very far away. One time I was invited by the American Chamber in Makati. They have a meeting at 9 o'clock in the morning, and we were invited. Clark Airport was invited to participate. I left Clark at 6 in the morning. I arrived in Makati late, 9:15 in the morning. And there was this one guy saying, you could not transfer the airport to Clark because it's just too far away. It's too far away in terms of travel time, blah, 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 and everything. And then after he was speaking, I raised my hand and I told the group, you know, guys, I came from Clark this morning. I left Clark 6 in the morning. I was at Balintawak 6:45 in the morning, and I came late for our meeting here in Makati at 9:15, at 9 o'clock, and I came in 9:15. So you do the math.
Yes.
What do you mean by saying Clark is too far? I was in Manila, 45 minutes from Clark to Manila, but from Manila to Balintawak to Makati, then that's another story.
But those tourists who are coming from Manila to rest here at Clark during the weekend, they are now understanding the real situation here, right? What you were talking about.
Yes.
It's the span from EDSA to the airport that's really troublesome. That's taking a lot of time. Anyway, we're gonna have a short break. After the break, I'd like Dennis here to talk about picturing, because you're talking about the improvement of the total Philippine economy, right? But we want to picture what's gonna happen to the region, to the local communities once we're to our objectives of seeing Clark as the center for aviation. Kaibigan, wag po kayong aalis. Maganda po itong pinag-uusapan namin na kayong mga taga-gitnang Luzon, Central Luzon people, para po mas maintindihan po natin kung anong napag-uusapan, kung gaano po kahalaga ang ating pong Clark International Airport sa ating pong buhay, mga kaibigan. Babalik po kami. Kahalaga ang ating pong Clark International Airport sa ating pong buhay, mga kaibigan. Babalik po kami. Muli hong nagbabalik ang yung programa Aksyon Central Luzon Special Edition na tayo po'y napapanood sa Pampanga, sa Bulacan, sa Bataan, Tarlac po, at mga resettlement areas, pati daw parte ng Nueva Ecija, no? At mga special guest po natin ngayon, ang Pangulo po, Chief Executive Officer ng Peregrine Development International, si Mr. Dennis Wright, and VP po for Commercial and Business Development Group po ng Clark International Airport Corporation, na si Mr. Darwin Cunanan. At ang pinag-uusapan po natin, mga kaibigan, meron pong Clark Aviation Conference February 21 and 22, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And before the break, I wanted to ask Mr. Dennis here about his statement that, you know, the whole economy of the Philippines will be affected positively. But I want to picture first the region. Mr. Dennis, tell us what's going to happen once we realize the dreams of people from the Clark Freeport.
I'm going to back up to something that was on your show probably a couple years ago, and we were talking about what was going on, and I kept saying Clark, 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 and you said, well, Clark is it, isn't it? And I said, you know, that's it.
That's
Clark is it. So we created this, you know, Clark is it.
Yes.
Clark is it.
Okay.
As a result of your show.
That's only there, right?
As a result of your show. You didn't get no royalties, but we thought of it. We thought of it on your show. We give these stickers out everywhere.
Yes.
Stickers, buttons, Clark is it. And that's because it's synonymous with the airport. And as I said before, airports drive growth. The experts, like John Casarda, Greg Lindsay, the experts on the way we live in the future, the airport is disproportionate to a country's economy because of transportation, for logistics, meetings, everything else. Go anywhere in the world. Have your audience. Let them go anywhere in the world and look for themselves. Don't believe me, and don't listen to what other people say. Look for yourself. If you look, for example, in Washington, D.C., there's a whole thing called the Dulles Toll Road. All the way from downtown Washington, D.C. out to Dulles Airport. Left and right side of that road is urban development, urban expansion, all driven because of the airport. If you go to the airport, it's called the rest.
How big an area is that you're talking right now?
50, 100 miles in circumference around.
Huge,
it's huge. It starts with the airport because people want to be reasonably, but it propagates out. But it also propagates out along the corridor. The corridor is very important. So with the growth at Clark, you're going to have the whole corridor coming up to Clark from northern Manila through Bulacan. All of Bulacan, you see it even today. Look at the growth. Coming north out of Manila, where you had the old, still today, the Petron rest stop that has been there for a very long time, and that used to be almost the only rest stop on the NLEX for those of us that remember it all the way back when it was opened up, right? But all the way coming north through Valenzuela, all the way coming north, even now where the big Iglesia Ni Cristo compound is, that's all development. That's what happens when you have those corridors of transportation open. But because the Subic-Clark Tarlac Expressway is also open, people now can get from Subic through Clark to Tarlac. And you're seeing the same thing. For example, you know Ed Berkins, our CFO, he lives in Subic. He lives in Calayan Heights. He commutes every day. Why? People think, commute? Well, yeah, in the old days it was 3 hours. But today it's literally 45 minutes door to door from his house to where he works. And that 45 minutes is a lot more pleasant driving than driving EDSA, dodging traffic on EDSA. It's a different kind of commute. Commutes are measured today in time, distance, right? So that just shows the opening. Often, we love to go down to Subic on the weekends because of the restaurants or different kinds of things to go and do. You don't think of nothing of it. It's like going to the mall here because it's just as close. So now with the Tarlac, let's see if I get this right, the Tarlac, Pangasinan, La Union Toll Road, TPL, is as that opens up, again, that whole corridor opens up because companies can locate their business. They can then move the materials in and out because from right now from Tarlac to here is 20 minutes. on the
Yes.
SCTEX.
Yes, it
So
does.
you can go all the way up, a 90-minute drive. People don't think anything
Mm-hmm.
of this. So all of these corridors, because of the road network, gets interlinked. And that's exactly when they talk about aerotropolis. Airport-driven communities are at the center, with the community urbanization taking place around it. So everything from Region 3, but even all the way up to the northern region, because it's much easier to get to Clark than going on down to NAIA.
All right.
So for Regions 1, 2, and the autonomous region.
Okay.
Yeah, in addition to what Dennis is saying, in the Aerotropolis concept, it's not just Mapalacat City, Angeles
Not
City,
local,
San
ah.
Fernando. No, it extends way outside
Yes.
because it would explode to a mega community which is airport centered. And the Subic Clark, Dennis is right. The Subic Clark Tarlac Expressway is a major thoroughfare that we could be connected to the north in Tarlac, and then we could be connected to Bataan through Subic. And then Subic is being developed as a major seaport. We do not have a seaport, so it would complement the operations
Yes,
of
again,
Clark.
complementation.
Yes, Subic becomes the major seaport, Clark becomes the major airport. And then after the T-Plex Expressway is completed, then going towards La Union to San Fernando La Union, it's much faster. Now
There's enough business for Manila,
Yes.
even with Clark here,
Yes.
even with Subic there, deep seaport, and then
What we're saying is the pie is getting bigger.
Yes,
The pie is getting bigger.
More people.
When Clark opened up, people were saying...
we're not taking business away from anybody.
Exactly. When we started operations in Clark Airport, a lot of people were saying, you will just eat up the market of Manila. You will just eat up a chunk of the market of Manila. And then they were proven wrong. Why? As we keep on growing, Manila also grows.
Yes.
It means we have a lot of travelers who avail of these travels because they're much cheaper in Clark.
Yes.
Without these budget airlines, they won't be traveling at all. And what's good about it
Or
is...
probably they're just staying in the area.
Exactly.
From the area,
and
right?
before, our OFWs are coming home once every 2 years, once every 3
No,
years
you know.
because of the expensive airfare. Now they could do it. They find the long weekend, they come home. And the good thing about it is they're not the only ones traveling right now. They could even bring their families with them, bring them to their place of work, so their families are able to travel as well. They are able to visit their families where they actually work abroad. So we're just giving a lot of our countrymen an opportunity to fly right now. And
A
they
better
could do that-
opportunity, yeah.
Yes, and they could do that in Clark. So we have all of the options here. We have all the destinations they need within the Southeast Asian region. And the good thing about this is the setup of Clark International Airport Corporation right now is our chairman is the Secretary of Transportation and
Yes.
Communication, DOTC Secretary, Secretary Abaya. And our vice chairman, in accordance with the new TIEZA law, will have to be the Secretary of the Department of Transportation. So the the Department of Tourism, I'm sorry. So the DOT is our #1 ally right now in their campaign to
Yes.
bring in more tourists in the country. They sit on our board, so they're quite aware. They're on board on what is happening right now at the airport, and they're our #1 ally in terms of how do we convince the government to please.
But how quick or how fast can we do airline to airline transfer here at Clark?
Actually, we're not saying that. A lot of people are saying, okay, it would be very costly for a lot of airlines to do dual operations. But I don't know how true is that one, because Asiana flies to Manila,
Yes.
they fly to Clark, and they even fly to Cebu. And what I'm saying is, look, you could only accommodate so much number of airlines in one airport. All of those airlines, which we could no longer accommodate at Manila because of the congestion issues, why don't we give them a chance to fly in the Philippines and use Clark instead
Right.
of Manila? Now we have those connectivities in place. Later on, we upgraded to the rail. but
And
we
more
now have-
balanced development.
Exactly. Now, because it's one way of decongesting Manila. If your only business to go to Manila is for you to get to take an airplane going out of the country, wouldn't it be nice that, okay, you could use Clark and then you will not form part of the traffic congestion in Manila anymore? Because that is what happened. The problem is the airport is way you will have to pass the whole business district of Manila before you reach the airport. You pass Taguig, you pass center of Manila, you pass Fort Bonifacio, you pass Makati. So all of those busy streets and everything, you have to pass through them before you reach the airport. But
For some, and even if you leave early
Yes,
from
yes.
from here or from Region 3 or 1 and 2, still you're not sure if you're going to be there early
Yeah,
for your flight.
For me, the only time that I would want to travel to Manila is on a Sunday, because on a Sunday traffic is very
Or
very
Hollywood.
light. Yes, or
Or 3 a.m. in the morning.
exactly. Or if you're an early riser, then you could do that. Just imagine the amount of time you will be able to save. And right now, for information, we're also talking to a very big Middle Eastern airline. Unfortunately, I could not name it because we're still on, but we're on the final stages of negotiation. They just don't want to rock the boat, if you could say. But we are in the final stages of negotiations. Our Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Luciano, would be negotiating.
How
with
soon
them.
will that be happening, Darwin?
Hopefully within this year. I'm
That would
looking
be
at
good.
hopefully by the second quarter that we will be in. And it's not just passengers. We're also negotiating with a major cargo airline. And hopefully once we have that one, Clark is already in the radar screen of a lot of in the aviation industry. And that aviation conference would
further
Showcase.
Clark. Why is Clark in the radar screen now? Then we could just explain to these people Clark is here because of this and this, and finally, hopefully, we could conclude in that conference what Dennis kept on saying, which he got from your show. Clark is it.
That's why we're happy that guys from the private sector are really, sometimes doing the job for people in government to boost Clark.
So another big factor, I think, is quality of life for Filipinos. If you work and live in the Filipinos and you're an entry or lower level position, not one of the wealthy executives, you've got major commutes, as you know. You live in a very small, cramped house someplace because that's all you can afford, or now you buy a very small condo. Here you can do all that same kind of work and live, and if you just go around there, you see all of these entry-level homes that are being built where you can finance through Pag-ibig at a very low cost, cheaper than what you can rent, where you own your own home with a little piece of grass in a neighborhood, as opposed to this congested feeling that you get. Then you look at the roads. The roads are all expressways. The Subic Clark Tarlac Expressway, now the T-Plex Expressway, the Northern Luzon Expressway, and they all bisect Clark. So you've got ease of access. You can live even in Mexico, get on the on-ramp and be here in 15 minutes. Now, Ayala has seen that. He's got his big development going on right there by Marquee Mall, and now the residential
They got Morong also, right?
And we also have SM building in some residences, offices.
Without the airport, there will be
without the airport
nothing.
even here, and you put the airport in, that even goes that much further. So quality of life is a big difference. Cleaner air, people find it. But there's an old saying, put your money where your mouth is.
Yes.
Show me the beef. Where's the money? All right, let's talk about that. What has driven Clark, ironically, has not been the government. It has been private sector, and it's been foreign. So if you say, show me the beef, where's the money? Put your money where your mouth is. Texas Instruments plant, very sophisticated, exported over $1 billion in 2011. They purport that as a $1 billion investment. Anybody who's familiar with it does not doubt that number. Samsung countered with a semiconductor factory at a $2 billion investment. The project we're doing is a $3 billion. Remember, these are $1 billion, not billion pesos, right? And the Yokohama plant expansion, $650 million, plus their old one, they're in the $1 billion club. But they're going from 21,000 tires a day to 50,000 tires. That makes them this is the largest Yokohama tire plant in the entire world. Right? Then you've got Singapore Airlines putting in, Darwin didn't talk about that, but Singapore Airlines putting in their A320 MRO and expansion already, plus a wide body, a 380, their whole expansion plans. These are big foreign companies putting in billions and hundreds of millions of dollars. Viscasi, HLD Steel from People's Republic of China, Haitama, Taiwanese fastener manufacturer, and these are all new. Within really the last 2 years.
And we're running out of space, huh?
Running out of space, and the demand is there, including in our site. The new Medical City Hospital going up. State-of-the-art hospital going up here on
Who would imagine that Medical City will be putting up, it's a major operation here, right? Before.
first-class tertiary care hospital.
So you're saying this is all airport-driven because of Clark, because of the airport?
It's because of all those things: quality of life, the location, the ability to get a workforce, transportation, good transportation road network, the expressways, and now you've got the airport that allows you to fly out to Singapore. Where are the big business centers? Singapore, Hong Kong, right?
Yes.
Kuala Lumpur, within ASEAN, Bangkok, all multiple flights. We're not talking one flight. We're talking, in some of them, 4, 5, 6 flights a day to these destinations.
Right.
That's what's driving it. And you look around and say, where are the Filipinos? Ayala and SM Malls recognize it because they put malls in both Subic and Clark, and they're packed. I mean, you look at the new SM expansion right now, you know, the new IMAX theater, the 60-lane bowling alley. I mean, things are exploding. So it's a little slow. This conference, we think, will help stimulate and make people aware of what's happening.
You know, I visited SM. I got, I thought I was in a different place. Because I just visited it a few months, and then when I came back, it's all different. With all the expansion that you're talking about. So you're gonna foresee more of this happening. I
know it's happening.
It is happening.
And some of us who are, like Darwin knows some secrets that he can't disclose, and I know some secrets
but
can't
he'll
disclose.
tell us after the show.
But no, that's what I'm saying. But that's the exciting part is just go out even in town, and it's not again just Angela. You drive anyway. Look at what the Inglesio Ni Cristo compound down in Bulacan.
Right.
I mean,
huge.
In Subic. I don't go as far, north as much, but it's every single place you go, you see expansion. Filipinos should be pumped, they should be excited, and they should see it is actually being transformed. The country is booming.
And in your lifetime, you see things happening in your lifetime. Because before, when we talk about development in the Philippines, can we see this in our lifetime? No, you don't ask that anymore because you see it happening right before our eyes. Okay, guys, we need another show. So I'll give you your closing statement, Mr. Darwin.
Yeah, we would just like to invite our countrymen, what we call our kababayan, to please try the services we have at Clark International Airport. Clark is now connected to the world. It is not just around Southeast Asia. You could take your flights to the US, to Europe, to London, to Canada, to Australia via Clark. We could have connecting flights if you want. Asiana Airlines, you have Cathay Pacific through Dragon Air, and you could have even Air Asia. Air Asia, for those budget carriers, you could connect to Malaysia via Air Asia X. If you want to save on airfare and everything, and if you want a more convenient flight, and you could save on time and a lot of things, then try our services here in Clark. Help us make this a better airport. This is not our airport. This is your airport. This is the airport of not only of Pampanga, not only of Angeles City. This is the airport of 3 regions of the whole Luzon, of northern and even southern Luzon. So please try our services here in Clark, and you're most welcome to fly here via Clark.
If you have a problem, go see Darwin.
Yes.
Mr. Dennis, what do we expect on 21-22? A gist.
There's another old saying, it's not your father's Oldsmobile. Oldsmobile is an old car that fathers drove and the sons never wanted to have it because that was an old time. Clark is not your father's Clark. It is totally different. People need to get out of Manila and come see it. Seeing it is believing. The conference is there to showcase that. That's the whole purpose of the conference, showcase it. I'd encourage as many people, vendors, suppliers, tourists, tour operators, anybody who is remotely associated with aviation, but also manufacturers and logistics companies who use air as a mode of transport. Didn't talk about the FedEx and UPS flights going in and out of Clark. Is give it a shot. Look at what's going on. This conference will showcase it. We have international renowned speakers coming in to speak. A huge agenda. International, Philippine, and I just encourage, and oh, by the way, it's coincident with a hot air balloon festival, which means they can come to the conference and stick around for the hot air balloon festival, but they need to get their reservations because there will be no vacancies at the end.
I'd like to thank you guys. 1 hour is not enough for you too, and we're going to do another one. And I'm so happy that more and more people are talking about Clark, because being spokesperson for Clark is not just a job of one department or one individual. It's for all of us to sell, ladies and gentlemen. And if we're able to do that, we'll be the first ones to, benefit from the positive effects of things happening in Clark. Again, thank you guys, and maraming salamat po, at sana po ay sumali kayo sa pinag-iimbita sa atin ni Mr. Dennis Wright, ito ang ating Aviation Conference sa February 21 and 22. So, again, ito po si Sunny Lopez sa inyong programang Aksyon Central Luzon Special Edition. Huwag niyong kakalimutan, Clark is it.